Good morning, everyone. How are you?
Good morning.
Morning.
Good to see you. So we're going to have a fairly short class today. I just want to show you one kind of nice thing that we can do with CSS. And then if anybody would like to meet with me to talk to me about their projects or whatever, we can do that. So just give me a second to set everything up. You should go ahead and set up your folders, get your basic HTML from your template in there. Let's see. Oh, excuse me. Okay, so let me share my screen. Excuse me. Uh, okay, so simple little thing we're going to do today, but we still need to build a little bit of a website here for this to work properly. Um, so this is our main page. We're going to have a little bit of a menu. So I have inside the wrapper two divs as we've done, the menu and the main div here. Why don't we start there? Okay, these are going to be links. Oops, someone's coming in. These are going to be links. The home page is what we're in here. We're going to call it, this is, so we're linking to itself. 2 and 3 are going to be in the HTML folder. Once we make them, we haven't made them yet, but HTML. Today's what, the 8th, right? Okay, so those links don't work yet, except for home, right? Home is linking to this page that we're in. The other two don't yet, since we don't have pages. We haven't made those files yet. So let us so we'll do that in a moment. We're going to have CSS. So I might as well put my link here, since I know I'm going to have that. And I already know what I'm going to name it. It's going to be in my CSS folder. I'm going to call it styles.css as usual. Again, no CSS sheet yet, but once I make it, it'll affect the page. Okay. So let us then go ahead and make that CSS file. So right click on the CSS folder, new file. I'm going to go ahead and save it before I do anything. It's in my CSS folder for today's class, which is tutorial 6. And I'm going to call it styles.css. All right, so styling that HTML body first. So this is going to be simple. All of my text is going to, for now, until we do, actually I should do web fonts too. That should be something I do today. So we'll start for the moment with just the same fonts we've been using. So let's see, for okay. Percent. Let's see why that's not wrapping. All right, let's see if that works. Good. Got the fonts and the colors. Mhm. And so that's my menu. Let's do main. Right. Again, these background colors, like last time, are just temporary in the menu and the main. We have some space here that I don't need. So for the body, H1. Okay, slowly but surely, I'm gonna get rid of those colors that I don't need now. I'll put none here and none there. So next, I want to do the links. Well, this is a bit of a review. Do that. Okay, we're getting there. Yeah. Now let's do the link states. Let's make sure we do this in the menu. Okay, not bad. A little bit light. Hmm. Oh, you know what? Let me put this background color here. Now when I think about it, I want the background color here and here instead of up here. Remove that from there to there. Oops. This. Oh, that shouldn't be visit and hover. Sorry, that should be active. Too pretty, but whatever. just the idea. Lastly, I think I want to switch the text decoration so that it's here in the A tag instead of in the state. So it's for all links, not just a particular link state. All right. Lastly, here, where we add the other pages, I want to make sure that that link button doesn't go to the next line when I make the page smaller, right? So I need to create a minimum width. So that will go to the to the wrapper. Say what should the minimum, when does that get smaller? So about, does that happen? Oh, right. Yeah, let's say 300 for the wrapper minimum width. That's not going to be big enough, but we'll try. It needs to be, that's still 50. Still not working. What about 400? No. There are better ways of dealing with that, but for our purposes, it's fine. Why is it still? Let's see. I'll put a background color there temporarily. See what's going on. What? That works. I guess that's to be 450. All right. That will be the minimum width. So I'll take out that background color. So none of this really is new, right? Review, but do you have any questions about what I'm doing here? You want me to go up or down so you can see what I've done? Or do you have any questions about why I did something? No, okay. I guess y'all aren't awake yet. So we're going to, for this little site we're going to create, as you might have guessed, we're going to create two other pages, right? We're going to do 2 and 3, and those are going to be in our HTML folder, and they're going to look basically the same as this page. So what I would like to do is just copy and paste the content from the index. Right, so the other two pages, 2 and 3, look almost exactly the same as this. It's just so we have additional pages, right? More than just one page that we're linking to. So I'm just going to go to my index here, and I'm going to just copy all this. Command C or Control C if you're on a PC. And I need, well, I need new files in my HTML folder. So I'm going to right click on HTML here in the upper left and paste that content that I just copied. I'll call this page 2. So instead of home page here, I'll put page 2. Well, since this is going to be in the HTML folder, I need to change my link here for the CSS and my links down here from page to page. So we're in the HTML folder. So in order to come out of that, to go to the CSS folder, we need the .. Same for the index, right? We have to come out of the current folder, which would be HTML. So ... in order to get to the index. This is page 2, so I'd be linking to itself. So I don't need anything else but page 2. And then page 3, when I make it, is going to be in the same spot, in the same folder. So I don't need a folder there either. So this is what the links will look like for page 2, both for the CSS and for connecting. Save it as 2.html because that's what I have right here, 2.html. And now it's in my HTML folder here. It should work over here. So I can click on 2 and it takes me to page 2, back home, takes me back home. 3 is not working still, right? Because now we got to create page 3. For simplicity's sake, I'm just going to go into my HTML folder here and duplicate this file, right? That's the file I just saved as 2.html. I can just duplicate it and rename it, right? So if I rename it to 3.html, it's basically exactly the same as 2.
Yes.
I can click here on 3 and just change the page name and number, right? Page 3, page 3.
Yes.
So now we have 3 pages, right? We have index, 2, and 3. And so when we click on these, we should go to all the pages. Okay. All virtually the same. So my main reason for doing this again, right? This is what, about the 3rd time that we've made pages that look a little bit like this, right? With the menu at the top and stuff. It's not because I think this is the best way that a page should look for our projects, but just to remind you how to create certain things with CSS. And to remind you about gradients and such, right? Just I don't want to like start throwing out all different kinds of styles of web pages, because I would prefer that you just you start to understand what we've been doing, and I think that comes a lot by just repetition. Okay, because in some sites that I showed you, right, for the projects, for example, some of those sites like Player One or Begscape, they didn't have menus at the top, right? And that's fine. It doesn't need to have a menu. I just wanted to make sure you knew how to make them, because most conventional, ordinary websites have stuff like this, right? They have a navigation at the top. But we're making art projects, right? So they don't. We have different guidelines, right? We don't have to follow the rules. You can if you want, but you don't have to. Okay, and that's just to sort of keep reiterating the same thing over and over again, so you know how to make something, and make something that looks kind of decent. Okay, so what I really wanted to get to though today was a little something we call animation. Now it's basic animation, and I'm going to show you first, well, how to just make stuff fade in, right? When you go to a page, for example, you can make all the content just gradually fade in. There's other kinds of animation, and I'll show you where to look for that if you want to experiment with other sorts of animation with CSS. But first, let us go to the style sheet. What we're going to do, like I said, is just make all of these pages fade in when we go from one page to the next. So I need to define the animation. And then I need to tell CSS or tell the browser which things are going to fade in and which aren't. So let's define the animation. Oh, we just define it at the very top. Let's do it here, underneath the HTML. This is going to be important. Okay, so the first thing you have to do with animation, if any of you, has anybody done animation before? Not with CSS, but in other like programs? Anybody? Nobody? So
I have
when
a
you,
little bit.
okay, good. So you'll know a little bit what some of the words I'm talking about. So in animation, what you have are frames, right? In most animation, or sort of the most fundamental kind of animation is sort of frame by frame by frame by frame by frame, right? That's how stop motion works. Like traditional animation, they would draw what they called a cell, which is essentially like on a piece of paper, or transparency, and then they would take a picture of it, then they make minor changes, take another picture, make minor changes, another changes, so on and so forth. So you have thousands and thousands of frames that would make a full feature animation. But there are always more important moments in the animation, and those are what we call keyframes. So the word here, an important word here, is a keyframe, right? Key meaning important. So keyframes in animation refer primarily to anytime a significant change happens in the animation, when something begins, say, to move, where that thing stops moving, right? So we have the beginning of the movement, the end of the movement, or if there's some change in the movement. So if for example, you have, I don't know, a ball that's rolling or moving from side to side, the beginning of that movement and the end of the movement, there's going to be a keyframe because that's the start and the end of movement. Makes sense that those would be two important moments. But let's say the ball changes directions in the middle of its animation. That moment when it changes direction is also a keyframe because it changes directions. So keyframes are key moments when animation starts, stops, or changes. And it's a little, I'm trying to boil it down to something basic, but those are key moments in animation, and that's something we need to think about too. So what we're going to do, like I said, is just having the content gradually fade in when we go from one page to a next. And so we need a keyframe for when the animation begins, for when and how long it takes to fade in, which is the end. So those are what we call keyframes in CSS. And when it begins animating is basically when the page loads, right? And then when it ends is and it can change along the way, right? If we want. But when it ends is when it's 100% loaded. All right, so how does that come out here? Well, we type the ampersand sign, the @ sign, and then keyframes when we're going to create animation. And I'll put little comments here so we know what we're doing. Design animation for fading in content when page loads. Okay, so @ keyframes. So that's just notes so we know what we're doing, comments so we know what we're doing. So @ keyframes. And then we have to give our animation a name. We could name it anything. I could not name it, I don't know, Jenny if I wanted to. It could be absolutely any name you wanted, but I like to name it things that tell me a bit about what this animation will do, right? Or what I'll use it for. So I'm just going to call it fade in, right? Because that's what it's going to do. but that's just me making up the name, right? That's my name for it. I could call it fade. I could call it, I don't, whatever. You could call it whatever you like. I'll call it fade in, not with the V. Okay, so then we, like the other CSS, we have the curly braces, right? The braces there. And then we have to define our keyframes, which are moments when the starts and stops primarily, but or if there's any change. So the starting is 0%. And basically, I'm just going to make it fade in. So it's just the opacity for now that I'm going to be changing. So opacity 0. When it's first starting to load, right, when the page first starts to load at 0%, everything is going to be 0% opacity, which means totally transparent, right? When it's fully loaded, which is 100%, opacity is going to be 100%, right? Fully loaded, fully. But in CSS, when something's fully loaded, when it's opaque, right? It's just 1. So 0 for transparent, 1 for opaque. So that's us defining the animation and defining the animation called fade in. So now I can use fade in for anything I want, basically. Any element here that I want. Okay, so let's say I want to use it. Let's just test something. Let's say I want to use it for the H1, right? Did everybody type that? Did I go too fast? So 0% first keyframe, 100. There could be other keyframes, but I'm doing super simple here, right? 0% for is going to be totally transparent. When it's fully loaded, it's going to be totally opaque, which we'll be able to see it. So that's my animation, and it's called fade in. I use an uppercase I here. It's called camel case, by the way, when you do that. So I'm going to make the H1 fade in. We'll start there just to test it out. And the way we do that is we put animation, and then which animation? Well, we're going to use the fade in animation because that's the only one we got. Then we have to tell it how it's going to fade in, and it's something called ease. And I'll get to that in a second. And then we have to tell it how long we want it to take to fade in. It can be as long as you like. I'm going to make it kind of long just so we can see it happen. By the way, this is just a test because it may not work. Sometimes that happens. Maybe I did something wrong. So let's say I want this to fade in gradually, really slowly over 10 seconds. Now it's just going to be the H1, which is what says home page here. So I'm going to save that, and then I'll reload the page. And you see it gradually fades in. Okay, let's say we want the menu to fade in too. So I'm going to copy and paste that, but let's say I wanted to fade in a little faster. So let's say I want that to be, say, 2 seconds or 3. Let's put it 3, or let's make it 5. I'm indecisive today. Okay, so the menu is going to fade in a bit faster, H1 a bit slower. So let's see how that works. A little bit faster. Okay, how about if we do the whole page, right? That would be the body. We can make that fade in a little bit faster still. So I'm going to go up here, paste it. Well, let's say I just want that to be 2 seconds, right? For the entire body to fade in. So you'll notice that the background color doesn't do anything, right? It doesn't fade in, it just comes in there already. That's because I have the background color up here, but what if I put this first? Let's see what happens if I do that first. Does it change anything if I put it first? It doesn't, right? So when the background color stuff, the HTML body and stuff, that isn't going to fade in the way the other elements will fade in. Okay, in any case, we could, if we did just this, right? We did just that. Let's say I take this out temporarily just to see what happens when I do just that at the top. If I only do the animation for the body, what's going to happen? So I'm going to take this out. I'll comment it out. Let's do that. Oops. Let's just test it to see what happens. Comment these two out. So those two aren't going to be fading in over slower periods, right? But I still have this guy at the top, right? For the whole, all the content. Let's see if that does anything. All right, so it does, right? That works for all the content, but it doesn't affect the background color. Now, when we go to, since this CSS is attached to all of our pages, we can go from one page to the next, and we see that every time we load any of the pages, they gradually fade in. Maybe that's a bit slow. I could speed it up a little bit. Let's put it at, say, 3. Still might be a bit slow, but you get the picture. It sort of makes it a little gentler, right? From moving one page to the next. You can even make it super subtle by putting it fast, like for a second, but it's less jarring, right? Than when you just automatically go from one page to the next and it just appears, right? So I tend to like these simple animations like this, but there are more complex animations too. So let's just do one kind of crazy one. So let's say we want it to be fully let's make this 5 seconds. Well, let's make it 10, so it'll go slow. But then we're going to design the animation a little different here. We'll put more keyframes. So let's say at 10%, well, let's make it 20. 20%, it'll be fully faded in, right? And then how about at 50%, it goes away again. So opacity 0 again. And then at 100%, it comes back. Right, so then we have 4 keyframes. It fades in, fades back out, fades back in again, right? So let's see what that looks like. Oh, but it didn't do it. That's weird. That's because I have it at ease. Oh yeah, it did do it. Okay, yeah, I'm right. Did you see it fade in, fade out again? But it's slow, so let's fades in, fades out, fades back in. That's kind of funny. It's like psych. I'm here, not here. If we make it faster, over 5 seconds, let's see what that looks like. Fades in fast, and it fades right back out, then it fades back in slower. So that's how the keyframes work, right? You can do lots of stuff that way. Not that we would ever do this, right? That's kind of dumb, but just to demonstrate. I'm going to take these out, make it go back to the way it was. put this at 2. All right, but hold on a sec. If we go to this website, which is very useful, I've told you before, explains everything. So you can make things move from side to side like that just did if you saw it when it first came in. If I reload the page, it should do it again. There you go. It does it again, moves, and then rotates and everything. You can do all kinds of stuff with CSS like that. And this explains everything to you, however you want it to work. So I would encourage you to experiment with these animations so you feel like it will be useful for your designs in particular, or even if you just want to try it out. Somebody came in late. Who was that? Who came in late? Hello? Somebody came in a bit late. Who was that? Nobody wants to own up. I saw somebody come in late. Okay. Find them. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about animation? Y'all are so quiet. What's going on? Are you actually there? Nobody's even
Yeah, I'm good.
So Nick, you're the only one who ever answers me. Thank you. I don't even think
No problem.
anybody's there. I don't even know if anybody's there. Are you there, Cindy?
I'm okay. I'm here.
Okay, Jishwan, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's all you can say is yeah. Hello.
Hello.
That's all I get. Okay. So generous with your words. All right, so let me stop sharing. Okay, so that's all today is about. I wanted to show you that last thing. I think you know pretty much everything you need to know to create the sites you want. If you want to do other things that I haven't covered and you need help, please let me know. We are going to start a jump in on Tuesday working with JavaScript. So that's make sure you don't miss that class because JavaScript is a little bit more complex than HTML is. And so you definitely don't want to meet the introduction for that. I actually would recommend that you not miss any classes from now on in particular because CSS, I mean, HTML and CSS, you can kind of see is not super difficult. I think it's hard to get used to typing code and making things with just text and stuff. But I think you might realize that it's not that hard, right? It's just a lot of repetition. With JavaScript is a little different. It's it's more complex, and so do your best not to miss any classes from here on out, and also make sure you ask questions when we get to the JavaScript part, because I think it's, like I said, it's a little bit more complicated, and so make sure that if you get behind, if you don't understand something, don't be shy. Make sure you ask questions in class, right? Because we're all trying to do this in class. I imagine most of the questions that somebody might have, other people will have the same question. So if you ask that question, if you're the brave one who asks the question, then you're probably helping other people too. Okay, so if you need to talk to me, please feel free to stay behind. Or yeah, just let me know if you need help. Otherwise, good luck on your projects. And well, enjoy your weekend too. And try to, I don't know, this feels like a little apocalyptic outside with this dust and smoke. For those of you who are in the city, in New York area, your throats are burning and eyes are scratchy, at least mine are. So take care. Okay. All right. Take
You
care.
too. Thanks.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
I had a question.
Sure.
Uh, in the homework, I was trying to do the buttons and
Uh-huh.
couldn't get them centered. Like, is there a way to center them on the page?
Are you're talking about the input buttons?
Yeah.
Okay, so that can be kind of tricky. Give me a second and I'll show you example. Hold on. Let's see if I can do that right now. Just give me a minute, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
So certain things like buttons and images are always problematic when it comes to positioning. So I'm trying to figure out a simple way to do this. I don't, so just give me hold on just a bit, okay?
Okay.
Um, you have multiple buttons or just one?
It's multiple.
Okay, and you want to center them
Yeah.
in, I see, okay. So hold on a second. So Seok, you had a question too, and where you too? Y'all both,
Yeah.
okay, y'all both had questions. Okay, so just hold on a second and bear with me. And if this takes me too long, I'll have to, I'll come to you and then I'll go back to Cindy. Okay, just give me a second. Sometimes figuring things out is not the easiest to do. Let's see. Okay, so I think I've made a kind of fix for you. All right, so let me share my screen. So just to show you, and then I'll modify it a little bit to show you how it works. So I have in my index those two things. If you, I don't know if you want to copy this while, or if you just want to listen. Are you going to try doing this yourself on your code?
Yeah, I'll try it.
Okay. Let me know when you've typed that, and then we'll go on to the CSS.
Okay.
Okay. So that we'll put the buttons there. Now, yeah, so they're not going to do anything, right? Because I don't have anything attached to on click or anything like that, but they're buttons. Now, when the CSS styles, I have two things. I have the ID button one, right, which is this ID right here, right? So button one, I've given a width of some percentage. It doesn't have to be 50%. It could be more. It could be 60 if I wanted. And I'll just make it a little bit wider if it were 60. And the background color is just going to be temporary, just so we can see the div. That red thing, the red box is the button one div, right?
Mm-hmm.
Padding is the space that we see around the buttons. So we could put that bigger if we wanted. Let's say 10. Right? And it makes more space around the buttons. All right. Now, since there are two buttons, the width of each of these buttons, which is the input tag, right? The button is made with the input tag, right? That's the tag. So then we can style that here. Now, two buttons, you would think it would be 50%, 50, half for one and half for the other, but because there's space in between the buttons and stuff, that doesn't quite work. So you put 49%. We might, might need to put 48. But that's mainly due to that space that's between them. Now, if I wanted 3 buttons, then we have to do a little bit of arithmetic here. So if I go back to my index and I say, oh no, I want 3 buttons, I could put a third button here. Right, so there's 3 buttons now, but things are going to go a little awry. If I look at it now, it's not going to work, right? Because the third button goes underneath like this. So if I want the 3 buttons to sit side by side like the 2 are doing right now, then we have to adjust the arithmetic in CSS. So that means it's no longer 49% here, right? But it's a third for each. So once again, we might think 33%, 33, 33, 33 is enough. But that still is not working. There's almost enough space for that one to fit, but it doesn't quite fit. So we put, let's try 32 and see if that works. And it does. Now, if you want to get rid of the background color and the div, the button one div, you can. And then they're centered. Well, that's unnecessarily complicated, but that's unfortunately the way some things are. Some things are super simple, you can do it, but other things less so.
Does the minimum width work for that to make them not overlap? If
Yeah,
you,
like if I make this smaller. So
Yeah.
right now it's not it's not necessary because the minimum width of the button div is always less than the wrapper, right? Because it's inside the wrapper. It's actually inside the main. So does yours wrap when you make it smaller? Does it go to the next line?
um, no.
I don't think that's ever going to happen because we already have a min width set. So I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Okay.
But if it did, you could put a min width. If you couldn't figure out how to do it, you could set a min width for the button div here. Yeah, sure. So that wouldn't happen. And I think that it's because that the button one div is inside the wrapper, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I have a minimum width for the wrapper, it's never going to be the case that I'll need it also for button, because button one is some percentage of the wrapper, right? So it's button one is 60% of the wrapper. So it's never going to go beyond. Anyway, try it. And if you need help, if you get stuck, just send me a message. Okay. And we'll try to work it out. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Does that help for your purposes?
Yeah,
Awesome. Okay. Have a good one.
you too.
Okay. Who's next?
Uh, so I have a question about I send you email about my proposal
Okay.
and you didn't respond me.
Okay. Did you resubmit in
Yes.
Brightspace?
Yes.
Okay. I haven't had a chance to look at the resubmissions yet. I'm doing that today.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And it was just about the comments on it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So as soon as class is done, as soon as that's the first thing I'm going to do. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
And if you still have questions, feel free to send me a message in Discord or something. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Last but not least, Seok.
Yeah. I resubmit the proposal.
So you had the same question. So that's you did resubmit on Brightspace, right?
Yeah.
So that's as soon as I'm done here, I'm gonna respond to the proposals. I mean, I haven't had a chance this week, so as soon as you submit, I'm done with you. That's the very first thing I'm gonna do. Your eyes are okay?
Yeah. In short, I'm gonna make a story
Okay.
like how can I say? um like heroes adventure and their
Okay, like an adventure story.
yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. And so the user, the person that's reading the story, are they going to be like in the role of the adventurer?
Uh yeah, I mean it's just a structure. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Anyway, yeah. The details in yeah, my proposal. Anyway, yeah. Um, and
And so we'll have the options or choices that we can make.
okay.
Is that is that how this works? So that when I'm reading it, you'll present me with options and do this or do that or go
Yeah.
here or go there.
Yeah, multi ending. Yeah. And
Okay.
yeah, is there any special things today's class?
What do you mean?
Uh, ex except the animation.
That's it.
Ah,
That was it. Yeah,
okay.
yeah, that's all we did today.
Sorry, I overslept.
No problem. But that's all. I mean, after I review the proposals,
Yeah.
I'll put all the code and the recording, so that you can, if you want to go over the class, what you missed before you came in, you can. That'll be up in an hour or so, maybe an hour.
Okay. And my last question is, we we're gonna do JavaScript. So
Starting next week, yeah,
starting next week. So
on Tuesday.
do I have to download
Mm-mm.
another I can
No,
use Sublime
this
Text.
exactly the same. Yeah, we don't have to do anything else. Okay.
Okay, I
Yeah.
see. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
All right, so be looking for my response, and if you still have questions, all right, let me know.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye.
Have a good one.
You too.